The following is a 1232 Studios production. It's your What's Up Raiders podcast.
Good morning and welcome to the What's Up Raider podcast. This is Gail Dwayne, your host. We're going to talk about a few things this morning. By the way, it's October 12th, the morning of the Tennessee Titans game. It's also my son's birthday. He's going to be 6 years old. Happy birthday, Elias. We'll be heading to the trampoline park after the Raider game. And let's just hope it's a great day, right? Let's just hope that the Raiders win. We can all go to the trampoline park with our cake and ice cream and be super happy. So, Raider Nation, I know it's been a tough week. We, every time you go to the internet, whether it's YouTube or just Googling and you see these Raider articles and you go to other podcasts and you got to hear these press conferences and it drags and it drags and it drags. And I know we just want to get through a week where we can just feel good about things. So I hope I'm part of that process for you. And let's get started. We've got a few things we're going to talk about. First of all, we're going to talk about why a game featuring two 1-4 teams matters, and maybe more to Raider Nation than to the Titans, whatever they call themselves. So before we get started, let's give you the What's Up Raider podcast phone line at 971-319-2976. And just remember, you can reach us at Instagram, TikTok, X, Blue Sky, and anywhere from Reddit and all these other places we are. You can find us at What's Up Raiders or the What's Up Raider podcast. Just do a simple search and you'll find us. So let's get started. We've got a game this morning or this afternoon here on the West Coast, a game of two 1-4 teams and why this matters. Let's start off with the why it doesn't matter part with the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, they came into the season on paper, they're just not simply better than us. And personnel to personnel, player to player, when you run both lists of the roster, our roster is better than theirs. We have more stars on our team. We have more people who are supposed to be better. They've got a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward. And at the start of the season, a rookie quarterback starting versus what we thought we were getting out of Geno Smith, it was supposed to be a win for the Raiders. We're still up in the air as far as, we've taken our lumps watching Geno this year, and my heart goes out to him. I hope they can get it together, but it just hasn't been real positive for this season. So I can't even say that's a win right now for the Raiders. But, Max and the crew, they're going to come through for us. There's supposed to be some changes in the defensive backfield, and hopefully we've got guys who'll stop looking at play action and letting receivers get behind them. But we also have an emerging star in Ashton Jeanty, and we've got, although Brock Bowers is out, we do have JPJ who's exerting his will on others. And I've got a section coming up that I'm going to just do a special podcast on JPJ. I think he's that big of a star in the making. It's too bad we had some of that drama with him and Pete Carroll earlier in the season. So just to finish this up, the Tennessee Titans are not supposed to be better than the Raiders. So when David knocks off Goliath, even if you're both 1-4, the sky's the limit for the Tennessee Titans. And if they lose, they were supposed to lose. Now let's get to the Raiders. Let's be real and let's be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. We thought as a collective Raider Nation that this Raider team was going to be more competitive. Many of us predicted 8 to 10 wins. And if we were lucky enough to steal a couple wins, we might be sniffing a wild card playoff spot. And you guys know that if you're in, you got a chance. And if you're hot, like the old Raiders were, be the first wild card team that ever won a Super Bowl and catch fire. You might win a game or two or find yourself, we're not a Super Bowl team, but we might find ourselves stealing a playoff win. So we know we're not at that. And there's many of us who realistically think we might be lucky to get 4 wins this year. So let's keep it positive and go forward. But the Raiders, if the Raiders lose today, we're going to see more sense of doom and gloom with this team. We're going to see more negative press coverage, maybe some adversarial interviews with Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly. When those guys get in front of the press, you might see just some adversarial back and forth where the Raiders coaches seem to be a little bit more defensive, and then it trickles down to the players themselves getting defensive. And I tell you what, I just want Maxx Crosby to keep it positive. I hate to hear that we hear some Max is unhappy kind of comments, because he's our dude. He's our rock at the moment. So, if we had to say who's the star of the Raiders, the face of the Raiders is Maxx Crosby. So more and more questions and more negative press conference. And let's be honest, just more negativity at work, talking to your boys who their teams are winning. And by the way, the Raiders have been losing. It's just been a tough time. So the Raiders have everything to lose. More questions about, Spytek and Tom Brady and what were these guys thinking? And then more questions about, is Pete Carroll losing control of not only his coaching staff, but perhaps the locker room? We don't want to go in that direction, which will eventually lead to a lot of Raider fans just talking about the draft and talking about the negativity around our quarterback position. And we'll have an episode coming up about quarterbacks later. So, but it's everything to lose for the Raiders. We came in with high expectations that we were going to turn the corner. We kept getting all this positive press out of camp, only to have be at a very painful 1-4 right now. So the Raiders have everything to lose with this. Tennessee Titans, if they lose, they were supposed to lose. The Raiders, it'd be more doom and gloom around here in Las Vegas. The Death Star in the desert will be a negative place, and we'll see more and more Raider fans selling their tickets, and it's just not a good thing. So that's my take on why this game matters. So we're going to come back and we're going to transition to segment number 2 when I return, and see you shortly for segment 2. Thanks. Welcome back, Raider Nation, for segment 2 of today's podcast. This part's going to be, let's get these guys some help, is going to be the title. But before we get started, let's remind you about the Raiders What's Up Raiders podcast phone line at 971-319-2976. And if I had to ask you, who are the stars on the offense? I'll get 1 star on offense and 1 star on defense. I think collectively in Raider Nation, we would agree that Maxx Crosby is not only the star on defense, but he is the face of the franchise. So that's the easy one. Let's say Maxx Crosby. And then on offense, perhaps some of you might say Ashton Jeanty, and others might say Brock Bowers. I think both are valid. However, we know Brock's been dealing with the knee, which you've heard me be very negative about. I think it's been handled horribly by the Raiders. I think if a guy that young, with all that young healing power still in his blood and in his body, if you would have just let him sit when he tweaked it, he'd be healthy today. I'm more than sure of that. And I did not sleep at a Holiday Inn hotel last night. So, but I can make that call. But right now, we see Ashton Jeanty emerging to the player that we all think he should have been. And let's be honest, throughout the early games, when maybe he wasn't getting the big numbers, we all saw he was an arm tackle away from making big, spectacular runs. So he's doing that now, and perhaps we can hope that the coaching staff is putting him in a position to win. And that means, there's 11 guys on both sides of the field. Not one person can do it. So hopefully we're getting these guys some help. So this segment, we're going to call this, let's get these men some help. and we're going to talk about some of the glaring weaknesses that we have. And we're going to ask Spytech, Brady, Pete Carroll, and the Brain Trust over at the Raiders. Mark Davis writes the checks. Let's get these guys some damn help. So we'll start off with Maxx Crosby. Max is going to do Max things on Sunday. He's going to get double teamed, triple teamed. He's going to use that relentless motor of his to chase down plays and to continuously go after the quarterback. And if you notice one thing Max has excellent hands. He's an expert with the chop. He's excellent with the swim, with the hezzy, the jump cut come over. And above all, Max never stops. Max is like the Energizer Bunny. He just keeps going. So we're going to see Max do Max things, and he's going to impact the game always. But if he had more help, would his numbers be up higher? Respond in the comments. Hit me up on the What's Up Raider voice line if you've got an opinion on that. If Max had more help, would his numbers go up? Of course they would. We've got Booker next to him. You've got Tyree and everyone else. Let's dissect the front of the Raiders line. We gave Koonce, I believe it was $10 or $11 million on a 1-year deal. Do we feel like we're getting that $10 or $11 million worth of value out of him right now? And I'll just let that sink in for a second. Do we think Koonce is the Robin to Maxx Crosby's Batman at the moment? Excuse me, I had to get a drink real quick. I'm going to say no, but I'm also going to give him a caveat that he's coming off injury. So let's hope that, it's been a year, and we'll see if the Raiders feel like, because I don't make the decisions and I don't write the checks, the Raiders feel like they need to bring Koonce back for another year, or does he get replaced? So along with that, in that same area, Tyree Wilson. Man, I love this kid. He's a hulk of a human. Smile, got a great smile. You can just see the good person in him. But as a number 7 overall pick in a draft, has he come through like a number 7? And when it comes to making these tough decisions, as far as the brain trust over at the Raiders have to do, business is business. And ultimately, Tyree Wilson's in a position where the Raiders either have to make a decision that they're going to keep him or let him go. And I'm afraid that they're going to have to let him go. It's been a bad pick. There were many other players available that would have been longtime contributors for the Raiders at the pick that Tyree Wilson was picked. He had great college film. Unfortunately, he hasn't, in my opinion, he's still doing the same things he did in college, and that's about it. He's got the power slap, and he's got the long arm reach. Other than that, it's all about bull rushing and power. He doesn't have much bend, and he doesn't have much what I would call athletic agility. It's going to be straight at you, and it's going to be powerful. But as far as some of that elite around the corner quickness, he's just not showing it. He's very powerful, and I'm going to give you a couple of positive things. Great power. He's able to play more than one position, and he's able to be effective, but he's not a game changer. And at a 7 overall pick, we needed a game changer. We need another guy to balance out that front end with Maxx Crosby and just make it a devastating front. And we're just not getting that. I like the guy a lot, but business is business, and so be it. Let's move on to Booker. Booker's been a great addition, and the irony behind his addition from the Eagles is that he was a backup. And you watch this guy, and he's got this heavy motor, and he's running around, and he's swatting. He loves the swim move. He's very powerful in short spaces. But here was a guy that was a backup on the Eagles and comes and immediately starts with the Raiders. That should tell you something. So great kid from Stanford. Love his play. He's going to have to elevate himself he deserves a starting position, but he's going to have to elevate his play a little bit more to be a solid game changer, and perhaps another pick, an addition on that defensive line will help him elevate his game. So He's another guy that I think the Raiders are looking to keep, but he's not the Robin to Max Crosby's Batman. So let's move on. Defensively, we've got to add some. We've got some young linebackers that just need more time. And I think we're going to start seeing some of these guys, especially at midseason or after this upcoming bye week in 2 weeks. We're going to start seeing more of the young bloods coming out. And that's fine. It really depends on where we're at. Can we get 2 wins before the bye? Can we get 3 wins before the bye? We're still not going to find ourselves in the playoffs, but we might find ourselves more competitive week in and week out. So that's my call on the defense. We're going to, and personally, I think we need to draft a defensive tackle at our number 1 pick coming up next year. Our first round draft choice, I think, should be a big space eater, a big 3 technique defensive tackle who can cause chaos on that defensive front along with Max Crosby. I'm going to go on the record and say that we need a big 3 technique defensive tackle. Let's segue over to the other side of the ball. Let's talk about the offense. And remember, we're talking about, let's get these men some help. We just finished with Max Crosby. Let's go over to the other side of the ball and let's talk about Ashton Jeanty. You know, if Brock Bowers was healthy, we may be discussing him, but let's talk about Ashton Jeanty. Let's get this man some help. Number 1, I'm going to say play calling. Let's get this guy some help play calling. Let's get him some balls. Let's get him some plays where he wins. We know he's a terror on the outside. He just needs to make one guy miss, and anything can happen with this guy. He's got the speed and the agility to go the distance on any play after a miss. Guys like that run through arm tackles with a breeze, and when they see a defender coming up on them one-on-one, they're going to win 7 out of 10 times, you know, on these kind of situations, one-on-one matchups. So the ability for him to break tackles and go to long distance, let's get him some play calling that puts him in those win-win positions. For example, and this is probably the 5th time I've mentioned it, the way that the Rams used to use Marshall Faulk, I think, is ideal with Ashton Jeanty. Let's get this guy out in space. Let's get him on the edge. And in in the passing game, let's get him one-on-one in those mismatches. You know, the coordinator has the ability to move these guys around. They got plenty of film they watch, and they hope for these certain matchups. And Ashton Jeanty is a terror and a complete mismatch going against the average linebacker in today's NFL. So let's get him on some option routes in the middle of the field. And there was a beautiful wheel route thrown to him last week for, I think it was about a 24-yard completion. We need to see more of that. And then if we can loosen up teams, that inside zone and outside zone should be popping. So first, I'm going to say, let's remember it was play calling. Next, let's get this man some help. Let's get some cohesion and better performance out of our offensive line. You know, JPJ came back, and we saw a boost in overall performance. We saw 0 sacks, but we saw a lopsided loss. So, and we'll put that clearly on Geno, but let's just hope that even with the injury to Colton Miller, let's hope the offensive line can get some serious work done each week in practice. And we just want to ask them to get better every week. Let's get these guys better every week, from Parham, Meredith, JPJ, and the mule out here on the right tackle, and the backup that we've got behind Colton Miller, whoever that might be this week. So let's just hope that the offensive line can mesh better and play better. And I'm going to go on record. I told you who I wanted at first pick. First pick, we want a big, here at the What's Up Raider podcast, we want a large 3 technique defensive tackle with our first pick. And I'm going to say second pick, third pick, let's invest in offensive line. In our offensive line, let's get the best offensive linemen available. We don't need any more projects. We don't need any long-term guys. We need to pick guys that can come in and start. If we could find one more guy with the level of play of JPJ, it changes our complete offense, in my opinion. Okay, complains, and if we have an offensive coordinator that can make these correct plays, then play calls, then it's a win-win. And let's be honest, my critique on Chip Kelly: take what the defense gives you. You know, if it's 4 to 6 yards a crack, take 4 to 6 yards a crack. You know, and if we got to win ugly 19 to 13, 14 to 12, well, damn, we won. Getting blown out 40 to 6 or whatever it was is ridiculous. So ball possession, ball control, demoralizing 4 to 6 yards per carry, 4 to 6 yards per play, and that should be the recipe going forward. We should be looking at winning close games where we're essentially playing keep away with our best player on offense, and that's Ashton Jeanty. So, and additionally, how else do we get Ashton Jeanty some help? We get Geno Smith to stop throwing the ball to people who wear the other color. And let's be real, he's had a couple flukes, you know, where the ball gets popped up in the air, but plain and simple, he's forcing the ball. You know, he should do a better job as a veteran throwing the open receivers. And if nobody's there, dude, throw the damn ball away. Second and 10 is always better than an interception and a turnover, especially deep in your own territory like we've been getting. And another way to get Ashton Jeanty some help, let's get Brock Bowers back. Let's get more Besh in play. Perhaps Thornton needs to sit a little bit. He seems a little bit out of sync to me. I was disappointed to see him not get any elevation at 6'5" on that large deep ball that hit him right in the shoulder. You know, you got a big man, he's got to get up. And what's one of your advantages is you're 6'5", get up in the air. You shouldn't be having 5'10" guys making a play on the ball. You know, a 50-50 ball should be more of his expertise. And perhaps he needs another offseason to get that skill level up. So that's going to end this Get These Guys Some Help segment before the game this morning, brought to you by the What's Up Raider podcast. Let's continue after this quick break. We're going to come back with something unpopular that we want to talk about Raider to Raider Nation. It's positive, but it's not always popular. So we're going to be right back after this break. See you soon. Begin. Welcome back to the What's Up Raider podcast. We're going to start the third and final segment of the day, and it's called, we're going to say something unpopular. And it's not always this is not a hype session. This is not a spoon-fed session where we're going to just say things to make people happy, just to do that. We all know that the Raiders are 1-4, and like the old saying goes, it is what it is. So let's continue saying something unpopular. What if the Raiders lose today? What does that do for us? We already talked about how we're supposed to win on paper, and we are a better team on paper than this Tennessee Titan team. But another old saying, on any given Sunday, right? So, you know, it might come down to turnovers, which we've been terrible at, and it might just come down to just outright being outplayed. But what if the Raiders lose today? What does that mean for Raider Nation? And more importantly, what does that mean for the Raiders? Where do the Raiders go at 1-5 if they were to lose today? Well, let's talk about what people are saying on the message boards. A lot of people are saying, hey, the season's over. Sorry, man. Sorry, Ape. Sorry, Gail. Sorry, What's Up Raiders? Those are our nicknames for me, by the way. This is over, bro. I got one this morning that said, it's over, brother. You know, so with a comment regarding the season is over for the Raiders. Gentleman told me Raiders are his team, but the season's over, brother. Let's get to that after this game today. Let's see where we're at, and we'll see how we play. But if the Raiders were to lose today, what does that mean? Does that mean we start looking at the draft? Does that mean we start tanking? Does that mean we just run out and get a new quarterback and everything's solved? So let's go over those three options. tanking. Should the Raiders tank to get the overall number 1 pick or get one of the high draft picks this year? A lot of people say yes, tank. Let's get a guy. I know there's a lot of angst last year when we started winning a couple games towards the end. I don't believe in tanking, and here's why. I think it puts your players at risk. Other than a coach perhaps taking a guy out or sitting a guy on a game that they think is over or early, I believe tanking, the game of football is a physical game, and I don't think you can bring in the culture of tanking and have a healthy weekly practice production. I don't think you can go to practice every day and get the right kind of work done that will actually prepare you for a game. And my point at making that is when you're not ready, but your opponent is looking to kick your butt, I think it just, at least the way that I played football when I was going to, hit you with everything I got, it puts players in a position for injury and retaliation. And just, I don't think it's safe. I don't think it's safe on the field to have a team that's tanking when other people are trying to make it to the playoffs and other teams are trying to win. You got guys who are trying to earn contracts against guys who potentially are tanking. I just think it's a lose-lose. And I think you set up your players for injuries. And I think psychologically, you just have people going through the motions. Football is not a game where you just go through the motions without getting potentially injured. So injury concerns, team psychology, and guys checking out mentally, even losing the locker room is no place where I want the Raiders. So I understand the value of getting a number 1 pick. A lot of people think that, we're going to segue into that a number 1 pick is worth tanking, especially when they think the season is over. So I'm on record saying no tanking. And we'll segue over to what could a number 1 pick or a top 3 pick do for the Raiders. Is a quarterback what you guys want at number 1? Hit me up on the What's Up Raider podcast line or make it out in the comments. Is a quarterback what you guys want? Is that going to be the be-all, end-all for the Raiders? Just a better guy at quarterback? Pardon me for that. Do you think a quarterback will change and make this team a playoff team just by adding a quarterback? I'm going to go on the record and say, no, we need more than a quarterback. And I'm going to give you my first 3 picks, my first 3 picks. I told you round 1, we need a large 3 technique defensive tackle. Picks 2 and 3, we invest in the offensive lineman with the best guys available at that position. That alone will change the Raiders. We've got 2 quarterbacks in camp. Let them battle it out. Let our offensive coordinator show us why he's getting $6 million a year, some head coach money to run the offense, and let's see what that does. Bring in some other guys, and as Pete says, compete, right, Pete Carroll? Let's make it happen. So you've got me on record saying a quarterback will not change this. And putting a rookie quarterback without a line out there is you're asking for just getting another guy beat up. Don't put me through the Hostetler years again, where we had a guy that was pretty good that was getting his butt kicked every play. So quarterback, in my opinion, won't make the change. But I do think that if we lose, we might be looking at the draft. We might have more draft talk around here. And again, defensive tackle, big 3 technique. Maybe that Jalen Carter guy that we missed that we should have picked up. And 2 offensive linemen that are impact players. Those guys will change your team. Those guys, and then we can invest in corners and a linebacker or whatever we want to do. But I believe, and I'm on record saying those are our 3 biggest needs. One more JPJ-like guy changes this offense. So I don't think we tank, and I don't think a quarterback is going to change this team. A lot of you guys think simply getting a quarterback or getting rid of Geno is going to make things better. It's not. It's not. Perhaps we'll have less turnovers, but I think Geno can clean that up. And I think with the heat on Chip Kelly's butt at the moment, we might see a different play play call sheet this week. We might see more conservative football and more Ashton Jeanty. And lastly, something unpopular. Should we start focusing on the draft? Should we already be talking draft in October? Man, that's going to be a fun thing, but that's also going to be a drag because we know that our team is just not going to be competitive and up through January. Wow, that's going to be a long time. So let's just get behind the Raiders. Let's hope they win the games that they're supposed to win. And let's hope that some of that heat coming down. I don't know if you guys watched the Pete Carroll interviews. He's outright saying, hey, players don't call the plays. That's a shot at Chip Kelly. And he's also saying, hey, we went all the way down the field on a call sheet on and then we get down to the running the ball, taking what they're giving us on the passing game, and then we get right down to the goal line and we switch to shotgun. Pete Carroll came right out and said, that's not the kind of football I like. That's not the kind of football we are. So that was another shot at Chip Kelly. I believe that ultimately with the experience, and I'm giving Pete Carroll a pat on the back here, and I'm giving him benefit of the doubt. He's coached enough, and he's got enough will that he can go up to someone like his coordinators and tell them, stop doing this. I want more of X and less of Y and more Z. I hope that he's got the cojones to put his foot down and say, hey, we need more Ashton Jeanty, and maybe go over to his son, who's a line coach, and say, hey, we got to get these holes opened up. I do expect to see more Ashton Jeanty. I expect to see more since we're not doing much 12 personnel, two tight ends, one running back. I think we might see more, be surprised and see some heavy or jumbo sets, a la the 49ers. I hate to say that, but I think we might be surprised and see some of that stuff. So that's going to be this podcast for the day. Let's all get behind our team. The 1 p.m. start time here on the West Coast, and see you on TikTok, and see you in the next episode. And as always, go Raiders.
Raider Nation, be sure to give us a like and subscribe, as this helps us to create more Las Vegas Raiders content. Follow us on all of our socials, including Instagram, X, TikTok, Reddit, Facebook, and YouTube. You can even call and leave a message or text us at 971-319-2976.